is at a request of somebody from the GameSalad. We wanted a mechanism where you could log in and stop people from logging in again if they're already logged in using Gamesparks. So first I'm going to show you what you have to do to set it up on the Gamespark side, and then I'm going to show you how to get it working on the GameSalad side. And then if I have time, because I try to keep these under 14 minutes, I'm going to try to go quickly through the code. And even before that, I'm going to show you how to add a user just in case. But the first part is really what the important part is. So first, this is a repeat of some of my other videos. You're going to go into configuration and callbacks. Credentials, I mean, not callbacks, credentials. And then you'll be on this page and you're going to create a credential called GameSalad or whatever you want to call it really. And I already created one. This one's created a while back. And if you see here, callback on is very important, and a REST policy is allowed. Short code, it doesn't really matter. And then for this case, all we care about is authentication requests, or all the other toggles are off. They're none. And I am not even sure you need this, the authentication request, because we're just using it as a mechanism to get into the system, so you could turn that off also. But I haven't tested that, so let's go into the cloud code. So that's all you need to do. I was going to go into the cloud code, but I'm going to leave that for the end. And that's all you need to do on this side is create these credentials. I'm going to go back to the credentials, and you see this number here, the secret, 3B, whatever. You need to remember that for the URL that we're going to use. We're going to use on the GameSalad side. And you also have to have this GameSpark API key. Again, we're going to use it on the URL inside the GameSalad part. It's GameSalad side. And now, once you create that callback, if you go into Cloud Code, under callback, you'll have a document that has the same name as the callback you created. And what you're going to do is that I'm going to have this code in YouTube, in the description, and probably in the post, but definitely on YouTube. And you're just going to paste it in here. The one thing to look at is that these are just straight quotes. They're not quoted quotes. So depending on how you're doing the copy and paste, or whether YouTube will even allow me to do straight quotes, you're going to have to go back in here and straighten out all those quotes. So once you have that, and you have the two numbers that we talked about just briefly before, you go into GameSalad, and I have the scene. I'll show you the scene. I have this login button. And if you see here, I'm putting in a self URL and logging the self URL just because I want to be able to log what I'm sending for the sake of this video. But technically you could just use it on the network send table to URL. And you're going to send table to URL to this URL that we're going to review soon, and you're going to send a blank table, and then you're going to, this is a real property in the game. See, in the game, if I go down here, log in, real, it's just a real. And I'm going to show you one other thing. The logout, this is the red button, is logout, is the same thing. You see? And so let's look at the URL of both. And then the scene has one other important thing that I wanted to show you is this just is a text, and I just have login real so that we could see what the status that is coming back. So let's go back to the initial scene and let's look at the login button. And I already explained how you're doing this. You're sending the URL blank and get login. And here's where I create the URL, and if you see, it's callback preview. This is the ID of the game. This, see, P96. And then GameSalad is the name of the callback. See, GameSalad, the name of the callback. And then this 3JBB up to there is this. And then you have a question mark, request type login, username. The username, I have it stored in a variable that I populate with the UI, and user password, I have it stored in a property of the game that I populate with the UI. Now I'm just going to quickly show you the other button, logout button, and you will see here it's exactly the same except that I have logout. Okay, so how this works. So here we are. I have a user already created. His name is Adrian. And the password is test. And I'm going to log in. And a 1 is that it was successful. I was able to log in. If I try to log in again, it says it's a -1. And I want to show you, I'm going to go into the Data Explorer. System Player. And I'm just going to find them all because it would be easier than me searching. And there's Adrian. And if you see in script data here, it says locked equal true. So technically, if you're running this and somebody says I'm locked out, I don't know why, and maybe you could technically go in here and make it false. If I can spell false though, save it, and then when you go back in here, I could log in again, and you see I'm logged in again, and I haven't refreshed, but if I refresh now, it's back to locked true. And if I log out, it successfully logged me out. If I do a refresh of this data again, it's false. So that's pretty much it. It works. If I try to log in as a name that doesn't exist, a password that doesn't exist, you'll get the -1, meaning that you couldn't do it. You actually get some logging in here in the runtime script log. And I could do a find, and I have some players logged and tried to log in. I create with Oscar and test. That's another Adrian and test. Adrian and test tried to log in. Error logging in with user. This was the fake user. And I don't know what this error was. Oh, so when you try to log in with a user that doesn't exist, it does 2 errors. One is the error that I wrote, and one is the system error telling you that this player doesn't exist, and it isn't a new player. It didn't recognize the username and password. Okay, so so that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. If you go into the cloud code, and you go back into the callback, and let's say you do not want to use the lock feature so that people can log in as many times as you want. You just type false here, and it should allow you to log in as many times as you want. But the person who actually requested this wanted this to be able to log. Now the other things I wanted to show you is, for example, some user management here. To add a user, you go into test harness, and this is true if this was live or not live, and you go into authentication for a request and registration request. You could add segments, but I'm not, and so my dog's name is Stella. So and the only reason why I'm using uppercase here is because as you notice, that's all I have for my keyboard that I created. So so it's Stella, and her username is Stella in test. So if I go back and do Stella, I don't remember if I did 2 words, but I could always go to the 2 L's, and the password is test. You see that that it's logged in. If I try to log in again, it gets a -1. I can log out, and they're logged out. So I wanted to show you that, and of course, if I go into the Manage Player screen, and the username equals Stella. Oh, did I make it? Wonder if it's. And there she is, Stella. And actually, you could come in here, and you could see the request log. This was the. I would expect to see more. Usually, I could open these up, but I don't know why I can't open it. Maybe it's too early. You usually see the requests here that have come in. Let me see if I could do Adrian. So you could see, oh, this is still Stella. Oh, and you see, this is the registration request, and you could see the registration, new user, and Adrian, and the password here. Request and response. I think that's pretty much it. The only thing I would mention is to delete a player. You have to really fire an event, and if there is people who want to see that, just leave me a comment in the GameSalad forum, not the YouTube channel. I do respond to those, but I don't check YouTube that often unless I'm putting up a new video, and so YouTube isn't the place for me to respond if you want a response in timely fashion. And that is it. I hope this is useful for somebody, and have a great day.